They don't tell you where it was delivered? Oh, Sanam is here, Tofik. I didn't
Yes,
see.
she's there but unmuted. You can talk to her. She will respond.
Okay, so I think that's a day. I'm going to wait for Shirley, but we're going to start with Sanam. Sanam, good morning, afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Oh, Human Rights Day. She's always ready for everything. This one, it's wonderful.
That was
Okay.
December 10th.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to tell us what you've done with the toy collections and when you're delivering and everything else.
Yes, so there are well, basically I have gathered items both through the physical item donations and if people wanted to Venmo or sponsor. And then there are two locations. One was Friday, the Bronx Women's Bar Association was doing a collection.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And the next one will be in conjunction with the Borough of Manhattan Community College, where I went to, well, I went to the Bronx Community College, actually, but part of the CUNY system. And that will be those two locations should be adequate to get rid of and disperse the donations. So
And how many toys did you collect?
sure. So there was a total of 15 toys, the actual items.
Well,
And
that's
then
good.
folks did donate cash donations to sponsor either further purchases.
Now, when they donate cash donations, what happens to that?
Sure. So basically, I will go and purchase the items through that, and then basically donate the items themselves. I don't donate the cash, if that makes sense.
Yes, it certainly does. It's almost like winter wishes.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah. I sent in my winter wishes, I think, before the first.
That's right. And one of my friends, she's a teacher, and I don't know if others, I feel like she may work at a private school or like a Catholic school, I'm not sure, in the city. But she had a list of students that she was hoping to sponsor to get gifts. And she had set up an Amazon registry. That was one.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so that folks could go and see what she was asking for. And one of them was, for example, Candyland, the board game, which I used to play as a kid too.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
It is.
Just a whole slew of things. So, but yeah.
Everybody likes Candyland.
Yeah, some things never change.
Did you set up a limit on how much they could spend, or they could buy whatever they wanted to buy?
Well, I went by the protocol I had seen in Winter Wishes. In general, $25 to $40, I think is a good amount. And there was there like, for example, with Winter Wishes, sometimes they do a corporate group. I did not unfortunately do that, but that can be maybe perhaps larger but that's more of, I think, like a monetary donation, but yeah.
Right. I know mine, I don't remember how much mine was, but the kid wanted I think it was an Xbox card.
Yeah.
A card that you can, use for the games and that kind of thing. So I took care of that right away because I didn't want, but I also thought that's a lot of money for somebody. Oh, good. Sakana's here. I thought that was a lot of money for somebody to spend on one gift. Sakana, we're talking about a toy collection that we made here in New York. I mean, we have toys, and I always have toys here because of the nonprofit, but Sanam helped us to collect the toys by doing her own group. And that's what she was just talking about.
Mhm.
Sukaina, in your country, do you do anything for, well, I don't know that they have that, but do you do anything for Christmas? Oh, okay. Can you talk, Sukaina, and not type?
I think she's in class, so,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah. Or night
No,
school.
she's in night school. She's always in school. Okay. So let's continue with you, Sukaina, because, not Sukaina, Sanam, because I think that's wiser. If she can't talk, there's no point. Go ahead. So what else do you have to tell us?
Sure, so, basically that's what, in terms of, my work with Lynn so far.
That's great.
Has been recently, and, sometimes I will say, and I do understand, and I saw this in Winter Wishes, sometimes they, are kind of careful to, in terms of privacy reasons for children, and, this, kind of, in terms of selection of gifts, I think it's always important, like sometimes to go by, for example, the age group, I guess that, can be best estimated, and, what they might want. But yeah, so I think that that's, so far it's off to a good start.
I didn't do Winter Wishes. I don't even know if they did it during the pandemic.
They did some, I think the first 1 or 2 years, with the pandemic, they did it internally. They just handled it. And then, but they have been doing it. They did a few sessions online where we would go and kind of like in terms of reading through the letters and matching them and so forth. But I think they had such a turnout those first few times that
It's a wonderful thing.
they canceled the remaining sessions. So,
Right.
so, but Lillian, more important, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Not great. That's why I'm not on video.
Mm-hmm.
I've been having a problem with an infection, but thank God last Thursday I did get my first chemo in a while. So I didn't want to, what happens is I did not want to fall back. You know what I mean? I wanted to stay in schedule, but
Yeah.
it isn't working that way because I have a lot of things coming up.
Mhm.
But what I'm doing is I'm actually staying in schedule right now. I'm back to schedule and I'm hoping that things will straighten out. Today is not a terrible day. It's not a wonderful day. So you get used to it. Complaining does not help anything. I don't believe in complaining.
Yeah.
You can notice that from her voice. My sweetheart is,
His sweetheart.
yeah, she's weak. She never complains.
I'm not weak.
So, yeah, okay.
I'm not
I
weak.
love
I
you.
have my strengths. I just don't have the desire to, like really, really push myself. But I'm gonna have to start doing that because I'm not happy. So
Things gonna be all right, sweetheart.
first,
Things gonna be all right, inshallah.
well, let's hope.
You
That's
will
all
be
we can
fine.
do.
You will be fine.
Yes,
Okay.
Susaya, whatever you say.
Sure.
So Sanam, have you been involved with any other projects from New York Cares?
Well, I'm continuing the citizenship program where we basically, it's mostly focused on the language portion and
Mhm.
system training. And then for New Year's, I may be visiting my sister, but for Christmas, I think
Oh,
I will be
wonderful.
here. So I looked up Stanley Isaacs, and they have a program going on Christmas Day, and Coalition has programs Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, where does your sister live?
They recently moved. I believe I'm going to be going. They recently moved to Maryland.
Oh, that's not
Yeah.
Connecticut.
No, my mother lives there.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go home to your mother?
well, my mother's gonna be going down to Maryland, so,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
great. You'll
but
all
I'll be house sitting for her and cat sitting, as they say.
good. Very good.
Mhm.
I heard from Emily this morning.
Oh,
And
how is
I
she?
wanted to know a couple of things from me. This project that she got me involved in was one of the worst projects I've ever had to. You know what? It's from OBT, but it's not like our OBT. It's the same OBT, but it's not in the same place. These people do not have their heads together. One day they put a program on, the next day they cancel it. One day they put a program on, the next day they cancel it. And
Yeah,
it's not like a program where you really get that involved with the kids.
mhm.
So they're high school students. It's an in-person program. So I wasn't going because I can't take that chance. But I was responsible because they couldn't find another team leader for the attendance and sending out the notes and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. Our program that we love will be back in March.
Very good.
Yeah, I can't wait because that program, is going to be a good program. That program
love
cheers
it.
you up. Yeah, I can't wait. That program cheers you up. It's totally different than some of the other programs that we have.
Mm.
So, other than that, there is absolutely nothing happening here. I was waiting for Shirley to come on because Shirley's brother died. And Shirley told me she would be there today, but obviously she can't. The hard thing to discuss.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. He died in hospice, which at least you didn't have
Yeah.
to face it alone.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a lot worse. When you face it alone, it's a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and his kids came for whatever it is that they came for. There's no funeral. He was, they did the other thing that they do, not the funeral. I can't, my mind is like, and his children came and they don't ordinarily come.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
sort of, that's what had to be done. So, at least she's out of that,
I did want to mention, like the with the I guess the fragility of life today marks the 10-year and mark of the Sandy Hook tragedy.
Yeah.
Of Sandy Hook Elementary, and
Yeah,
that was the town basically next over
I
from
know.
where my mother lives. My mother lives in Bridgeport, and Newtown is the one right next over. And you kind of think those children, many of them 6 years old at the time.
It's I can't. I still can't.
Yeah. They would be maybe getting their driver's licenses now. It's just it's a little
How do you think of something like that? That's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
I
And
really don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what you write.
Hopefully, I know the senator from Connecticut, Chris Murphy. I think in part because he represented that area, that district has been really very vocal in terms of trying to get some sort of solutions and protection measures. So, but yeah.
Unfortunately, at the time, there was very little they could do. I mean, it was a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it's happening all over the place. It's not just Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary to think of what kind of a world we live in where everyone is in jeopardy. You walk out of your house and you're in jeopardy.
Yeah.
I was reading an article about our wonderful transit system. And and they were talking about they're putting more cops on the and maybe they did. And I agree with you, Sakina, schools should be protected, but over here it really isn't. I'm sure you have more protection there than we have here. So
well, The subways are a whole different thing because recently and I don't know, there's a whole issue of in terms of, the mayor announcing involuntary hospitalization for people that they find that
Mentally.
and as a danger to either themselves or other people, but I'm not sure. There's a lot, I mean, I'm not even sure really what the solution is, but I know many people are concerned because, even if you were to ask them, oh, would you like to go to a shelter? They might say no. There's a lot of issues.
That's the problem. There's a lot of resistance. It's
Yeah.
not like they're not trying to do something about it, but there is a lot of resistance.
Mhm.
They don't want to go to shelters. If they wanted to go to shelters, they'd be in there already. They
Yeah.
don't want to go because they're, there's a lot of problems, violence going on in shelters.
Mhm.
And
Hi, Leo. My sister.
who's here?
Welcome. Leo.
Oh, okay. So there are a lot of bad things going on here
Mhm.
because the shelters are, it's a place for them to be, but they don't want to be there. And I wouldn't go on the train if they paid me to go on the train. So that in itself is another factor.
Yeah.
We need more people. We need more help.
Mhm.
And so far, I don't see the right kind of help. I don't know. I haven't been on trains in I don't know how long. What do you see on the trains, Sanam?
There definitely is similar incidences that occur as before. I will say that certain stations, they have been also announcing, oh, if you need something, this there, like for example at Union Station or something, they might answer with that, saying that, oh, there's a police station in this station if you need assistance or something like that. But yeah, how about everyone else? How is everyone else doing? Miss Lasita, Miss Leah, how is everyone else doing?
I suppose my big, what's the word? Realization is that I don't have to be looking for things to rejoice about in this world, although I do still to some extent. Like I will take a walk early this morning and I felt so excited because there was red in the sky when
Oh, beautiful.
and it was gorgeous. And so that was an example of when I could rejoice about something in this world. But the realization I had in the spiritual group yesterday that I go to every Sunday is that the spiritual reality beyond this world is what I can rejoice about. And I can tune into that when I close my eyes and I get these wonderful colors. And I don't see masters. I don't see all the things that my spiritual teacher, when he was alive, was teaching about, but that I can trust that there is a spiritual reality and we will get to it when we die. And it is only a breath away, even now. It's still there behind my eyelids. And so, although there are terrible things on this earth, there's another reality. So that's my reassurance right now.
Works for me. I mean, that sounds okay.
I agree 100% with you, dear sister Lasita.
Yeah.
I will add something. This life is like a dream, it's like you go night, you sleep and wake up in the morning, or we don't wake up. So the real world, the real joy, and the real life is in the hereafter spiritual, place. So whatever happens, we have a chance to go there and enjoy everything. But doesn't mean that we should not be positive. We should love life here, of course, because through our life here and through our good deeds, through all it, we reach that hereafter in peace, in love, and everything will be stopped once we leave. So that's why I feel in our culture or myself that this life is temporary and the real life is there. So when we die, I guess we shouldn't get upset or having being afraid from this. In fact, it's the open door to the eternal happy and spiritual life that everyone would love to be there. That's it. So that's it. That's all I can say. Thanks
Yeah,
Let's see,
God for being alive
let's see if Leah
today.
has anything to add.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
Leah. Yes, you have, Leah. We love you.
I'm
Go ahead,
so
sister.
happy to be able to
Yeah.
be here. As you can hear,
Oh,
um,
your voice is broken, sister.
Like
I
mine.
have
Yeah.
I have not had a
I
voice.
like my Lena's voice.
I've not had a voice for a week. Actually,
I don't know if
no,
it's just my computer, but your background is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, right. Oh, Merry Christmas. Merry
yeah.
Christmas.
I think of it as a festival of light for me. I love light.
Wow.
It's the light.
I love that.
Light. Light.
Oh, you are light. You are light. You don't
I
need
love
to
light.
turn on those lights.
I
Lovely.
love your
Light is me. Light is the light.
background. What a
Yeah.
cool background.
What is your topic? Because I'm sorry.
No, we're just
Okay.
talking, anybody's chiming in with whatever they want today. Sanam reported on her collection of toys for Christmas. And that's really basically, I was hoping that Shirley would come because Shirley's brother died, but I don't think she showed
Oh, I'm
up.
sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I did want to add, there is someone very close to me. Their daughter is around, I think she is just now like 4.5, and she has some sort of uh, autism, and
Oh,
Wow.
what's good is that, and especially given these last couple of years with the pandemic, it's been quite different. I think for all young children, and the whole issue of sensory overload and sensory input for them is very, but what's wonderful is that from as best I can tell, the daughter has been making really great progress.
oh, wonderful.
And there's a whole lot of, I think there can be a lot of potential for growth and development and everything. So I think that gave me a lot of hope that, and I hope her parents that, all is not lost by any means,
No.
for
Do you know what form she has? I was diagnosed autistic as well. When I was a child, they didn't call it autism then. That is what they call it now. It's a form called more what they used to call Asperger's. It's a verbal form. Is this a nonverbal autism?
yeah.
Nonverbal. That too can improve it. But there are so many things that the right treatment, acceptance, love,
Yeah.
care, and
You're right.
can do
I agree.
everything almost. Actually, it's society that makes it the hardest for people with every
Sure.
form of autism. Even
You're
those
right.
who appear normal, but in fact have a more of a sensory overwhelm and obstacles that others don't actually know about. It's invisible to them. Most of the time, they just think that person they mask. And in fact, female autistics are known to mask, M-A-S-K, mask very well to try to actually appear normal. nonverbal autistic people, depending upon IQ as well, may not be able to mask as well, but it is society that should conform to the autistic person's needs for quiet rooms. Some places are. So like if you have to go to the airport, the autistic child or person or adult can go to the chapel. Perhaps some places even have a quiet room for people with autism, and even some grocery stores doing that. So there are things like if the crowd, if the sensory, the lights, the noises, everything is getting to be way too much, and the child's beginning to get, close to what you might call a meltdown or a tantrum, to behave in a way that people consider challenging, then it's the people around all of us who really need to help those parents. In fact, those parents are often put down. Why don't you let your child discipline your child and have a child who behaves properly? The parents can suffer a lot of discrimination themselves.
Sorry.
But
Terrible.
enough of society, all of us can be educated to help those parents, to help that child, to not have to suffer into the point of overwhelm and what we consider like a tantrum, or, if they're verbal, they might behave in such a way that you think they're just a bad person, or they're having some kind, they're acting like a child or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's simply that the senses are overwhelmed. So quiet rooms, taking time out to go to be, these kinds of things. Education is so important.
Yeah,
Right, we can't
I
be
agree
so,
with you.
when we don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. We have to eliminate the judgmental part.
Yeah.
The
And understand
judgmental
what
part,
they
you are
think.
so right, Lynn. You are so right. People leap to the judgmental part often, not always, thankfully, but many people leap immediately. A child is acting, "Mah," and they think, oh, those parents must be horrible.
Leah,
That child's
Leah,
is a bad child.
Leah, go to
Sukaina
chat.
has a
Sukaina, ask
question.
your question.
Sorry, love. I'm
Sukaina
sorry.
can talk. Sukaina can talk in the classroom. She asked you a question. You can go to chat
Oh, I don't see
box.
okay, let me see the question.
Yeah, go to chat box. She asked you about
Okay.
autistic. Good, thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I see. That's very interesting, Zucchini. Very interesting, Zucchini. There are many things that as a teacher you can do. If you want to be, for one thing, there are some excellent books. If they're available to you, I don't know. But
Yeah.
there are some excellent books. But besides that, there are things online, like certain organizations, they put out a tremendous amount of educational materials to help teachers to know how to help a child. So how old is a child? Can she hear me?
I hear you.
Yeah,
I was just
hello.
wondering how
Go
old the
ahead.
child was. Sakina, how old is the child?
She can't speak. She's in the
No,
classroom.
she's writing.
I'm
She's
looking
writing.
on, oh, she's
Oh,
8.
she wrote
At
8.
8 years old.
8 years old. Okay, thank you.
8-year-old.
An 8-year-old, okay, there's, for example, one of the problems in autism is knowing how to express how you feel. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking autistic people generally across the board do not have empathy, for one thing, that they don't care. That's not true. They don't know how to show that they care. They don't know how to tell what is happening to them very well or at all. So one thing that in educating an autistic child to be more, comfortable in a world that was not made for them is to like get, it's even on Pinterest, I think I saw once, a whole range of emotions of a child with a whole range of emotions showing. And to say, when the child is, say, feeling something, to say, you look upset, do you want, look at these faces, tell me which one would do you, which one do you, I don't know how much the child understands, but which one do you like to think is how you feel? I didn't say that very well, but it would depend on the child how I put it, because it depends how much they, I mean, if they're in your class, I assume they have a normal intelligence level, or quote unquote normal. And if they look at this chart of various different emotions, which they have not been able to express, they might be able to say they're angry. They see the angry face, they point to it. The sad face, the tired face, sleepy face. Yes,
Yeah.
bullying is the worst thing that happens to.
Unfortunately, they are all valued. The company, the society is crazy about those people.
Yes, absolutely. My gosh, I am so proud of you, Sabrina. Your sensitivity is admirable.
Sister Leo, please, where does the word come from? Autistic or autism in general? I mean, the syntax. I mean, the meaning in English. Or where does it come from? We can say schizophrenia.
I think it's.
Yeah.
Asperger's syndrome was the one which was given to the verbal child, who often is of average to gifted intelligence.
Okay.
I mean, my transgender daughter, and there are more people with autism who actually are transgender, because they thought that they don't develop that part of the brain it develops differently. They genderize differently, simply because that part of the brain is actually different structurally. There is evidence for this. But anyway, that beside the point. If even so, you do not socially, as a social problem, social problems that are the most difficult things, communication problems, and learning to take care of oneself in the world. Each person who has an autistic spectrum is unique. They're just a person. They want to, eat, drink, sleep, have friends, be loved like everyone else. They're not different. They're not different human beings. They are just human beings who have a neurological difference in the way that their brain processes social cues. So they may not catch certain social cues. They may misinterpret social cues. They can get easily scared because they don't understand what's going on, perhaps like an ordinary child who learned that from the day one. If you have adapted well, like I have, you still can have it happen. But I have adapted to the point where I can appear very much like a person who does not have such a problem. However, I had to learn a lot of ways. I studied being normal. I read books on how to appear like a girl when I was 10 and 11. I studied these books to see how to behave like girls. And unfortunately, I studied because some of them were quite terrible. And I was supposed to be, so nice to boys and let boys tell me how great they were and all these things. I was trying to get it right. And that's the thing, is that one tries to get it right. But if the child's nonverbal, it's not that one is easier or harder, because being verbal can mean that people never think you've got a problem, and they never understand that you face the obstacles that you do. And so you actually end up in you are not naivety, or naivete is a sort of quality that most autistic people have. They're very naive. They can easily trusting. They can think someone is nice when they're not nice. They can think someone is, they don't No, and there are different kinds of people. So I'm not talking across the board at each section, but generally speaking, there's a trust that people are nice, and that can lead them into being victims targeted by criminals very easily. This is a real problem. If adults can help them, if people can teach them all along the way about the world in a good, not scary, but a good way. And the way you can say that make a safe circle is a marvelous question. I am so impressed by it, and I think it deserves an extremely good answer, which we probably don't have the time for here. But one thing is just being a gentle presence is so important.
Yeah.
If I
That's
feel
what they
upset,
need.
Yeah.
when someone's being kind, it's not their words, it's just their presence is gentle and kind, and they are gentle and kind. They're not pretending.
Yeah, sure.
They are gentle
Sure.
and kind. And,
Yeah.
you can do that by hand gestures to start with, by not, don't get into their space. Don't touch without permission, a hug. They may not react well to it. They may misinterpret the hug. So one has to be very careful about touch and entering into their space. But one can be gentle and out of their space and let them know, I am your friend. Just with your presence being a kindly presence, not
Yeah.
being scared of them, which a lot of people show fear around the autistic child. They will, some people think they're full of demons. My own family thought I had lots of
Oh,
demons.
God.
I was
Oh my
subjected
God.
to exorcisms
You're right.
to get
The problem is
demons
not
out
with,
of me.
yeah,
Sorry,
the problem
love?
is not with the disease. The problem is with the society,
Society.
people
Well,
around.
absolutely. I mean,
That's
when
it.
you're being,
And I guess not only for autistic people, people with depression, people who are with some chromosome, imbalance, like the ones there are another kind of people, not autistic, but I don't have the word in English. We call them in
different,
French,
different in some way.
Mongolian. Yeah, Sukaina, can you write
Oh, you
Mongolian
mean
in
they have a
French?
learning difficulty?
Yeah, yeah. No, some other kids or people who have strict, people
Th-
aren't educated enough. Yeah, Sukaina, what does mean the French word Mongolian in
Oh, I see.
English? Do
Yeah,
you know
Down
it?
syndrome. She said it already.
That's
It's
Yeah,
Down
easy.
syndrome.
Yeah,
Down
read it.
syndrome.
Let's say that
Those
you said
people
it.
too. Oh my
Yeah.
God, they are so clever. They are so
Oh,
intelligent, and they
most
have an
peaceful
open.
people.
Yeah,
And
they
they're
have a
loving. They're very loving.
big heart, but people who makes them act scary. People who, Lynn said one word, and I agree. They make them scary. Scary.
Yeah,
Now, this is
yeah,
the bad
exactly.
side of the society. Yeah, they're good,
Yeah.
and they're better. They're better.
Society is sick. Society in general does not know how
Yes.
to handle people
Yeah. Yeah.
who don't conform by their face shows something different. They are
Hmm.
transgender.
Yeah.
It's not a lifestyle choice. It's actually something a person has.
Mhm.
For the majority of people, it is not a lifestyle choice. It is simply that from an early age, they incorporated the gender of the female, and that's why this of femaleness, of not being in the right body of their body, their male body
Yeah.
just not fitting them. So that comes from from the start, like, even though some people don't realize it until they become it's puberty, because until then we're all kind of, until you have a sexual characteristics, really, you're not necessarily aware of being a boy or a girl. You're just a kid,
Yeah.
sometimes. Some people
Yeah.
are,
Sure. Sure.
but but I mean, our Down syndrome, you know, the child's face can show it and people will make fun of them and bully them. If you're too
Correct.
big, that you can be anything different. Bullying can happen, especially with people
Yeah.
who show some kind of difference. I was bullied, but you know, the funny thing is I was bullied. Well, I was rejected by a lot of people, but I was also liked by a lot of kids because
Sure.
I was actually smart, which is not to say it's
You
not to
are.
brag. I'm not bragging, but I'm saying I had such a high IQ that I could sort of play games with them and beat them at it. And so I got a reputation. So I wasn't, they weren't my friends and they thought I was different. They'd say, you're a weirdo, you're weird. And I wouldn't be invited to things, but they didn't exactly bully me. The teacher, I had teachers who did. They made me,
Oh my God.
they would
Terrible.
call me to the front of the room
Terrible.
and,
Yeah.
and make the whole class laugh at me because I didn't, you know, it was just horrible and horrible. And PE because I have dyspraxia, which often comes with autism, which is basically not being very clumsy or uncoordinated or whatever you like. And yes, I have dyspraxia, but as an adult, it doesn't matter that much if I can dance or not and some, you know, follow or whatever. But as a kid, when you're in PE and all that stuff, it can be a horrible experience because you can't play the way the children want you to, so no one wants you on their team and all that sort of stuff. But the teachers, they would point me out and they would bring me up in front of everyone and say how they thought I was retarded is the word they used.
Oh
then.
my God.
Oh my
They thought,
God.
until I took Florida State standardized test and my IQ was in the way gifted range. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying I went from being considered so stupid by my teachers to suddenly they had to treat me like a gifted child, which everyone was very reluctant to do. I never received an apology, but I do know one teacher who my parents knew who later apologized, said, I'm really sorry about the way I treated, quote unquote, my previous name. And one reason I don't like to use the name, my previous name, is because it was used so badly by so many people. But he did say that. And my parents also said later, because that they were sorry that they didn't, you know, blah, blah, blah. Everything, people know more nowadays. There's a lot of information out there.
Sukaina, Sukaina, those teachers are in Morocco too. I have seen a lot of them who really mistreated the boys with syndrome or Mongolia. I have seen that they, prejudge kids who hasn't enough, who look thin and not in their bodies. This happens not only in UK or in Wales where Leah said, but in Morocco too. This is there are a lot. There are a lot, and not only I want to say something. Not only with autistic or people with syndrome, whatever, with normal students, with normal kids. This happen a lot, and this is
Yes,
why I'm speaking.
that's true.
This is why that the educational system or doesn't grow, doesn't go
Yeah.
forward. I speaking about Morocco and certainly in many African, Arabic, and some common
Yeah.
countries and nations. It happens, and unfortunately, the
Thank you.
governments responsible don't do anything about that. We should make priority and save those kids. Teachers, especially teachers, they have to pay for that, but unfortunately, they treat those innocent kids or even the wrong way.
You get rid of the teachers. Don't worry about the kids. Get rid of the teachers. Get people who care.
Yeah,
to
get
train
rid of
teachers.
teachers.
That's
Yeah,
what
you're
we need
right.
to do.
Educate these teachers. These teachers will affect a
Yeah,
child the rest of their life. And if they ruin that child's self-esteem at the early age when that child's brain is developing, believe
yeah.
this is actual brain science. I've studied it. My dad was, anyway, I have studied it.
Mhm.
And there, neurological changes occur because of trauma, particularly when the brain is developing from ages infancy or in the womb, really, until the age of 25. But even after that, trauma can change people, but it doesn't necessarily change the structure of certain brain parts, such as the amygdala, which is where we receive like the stress. And so they become really stressed out because easily because they have had too much, or it could have been that way as a birth thing, but they actually, because of so many traumas occurring to them, which are much more likely to happen to a person with any kind of difference, any neurodivergence, if you like, neuroatypicality. That's the word that people use a lot in the circles I've run in, is most of you are, I cannot say for sure that you are neurotypical. You're neurotypical in that there's something quite similar about the way your brain's networks and the neurotransmitters, everything works. It's not the same. You're not the same thing, but you have a lot in common, because from an early age you got a lot of the right cues, and you could see what was, But if you came from an abusive family, a family that was horrible, or lots of troubles, etc., a war situation, etc., your brain can actually change forever. And that's why my heart broke when Trump sent those children into prisons when they were just little kids. He's creating lifelong problems for those kids. He did. He's already done it. But anyway, enough of that. The thing is, Sukaina, I'm going to just open up my heart to you and say that if that's right, yes, very good. Lasita, you know a lot. Lasita obviously knows a lot about this subject.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking it up as you're teaching us. I'd actually never heard of dyspraxia before. And I actually think I probably had it. My mother used to consider me so incapable of doing things with my hands, and my father would say, oh, but she's so good with her brain, don't worry about her hands.
Oh my God.
I would never be able to, because she tried to teach me to crochet and I couldn't do it, and things like that.
Oh my goodness.
Clumsy?
It does really sound very,
that you, like, for instance, I think if I tried to carry a bowl of soup to the table, I'd shake too much and I'd spill things like that. Or one would fall over things and things like that.
Yeah. Walk into walls.
Yeah, great job, Sukaina. Yeah, tell us
Caesar,
more.
that is so true. I'm afraid that may be the case, and it probably caused a lot of suffering for you as a child, growing up thinking that something wasn't good enough about you. Something.
It's a terrible way to have to grow up.
Yeah.
And then look at all her talents. Look how much.
That's the thing. I mean, if you could, especially if you have a high, people think it's so. I'm not. I want to be so careful here, because I do not. I don't elevate the person. My son. I just made a big mistake there. But anyway, one of my children has an IQ of over 180, which is really extraordinary. Mine is not that high, but it's high. But it's not that high. Anyway, and they think in mathematical symbols, basically. And socially, they are so inept, and so sadly get things not quite right. But they're doing good now at the moment. At 43, they're actually.
That's Avi, right? You're talking about Avi?
I am, yes. I didn't mean to make that error, but I'm not perfect.
No one's perfect.
Is there any public schools for autistic kids or people?
They're always private. Always private, but and very hard to get into as well, because of being money. If you have money,
expensive.
Or
This
their
is what
institutions.
Sukaina mentioned, Yeah.
They used to send people to institutions, even when they had a normal IQ and could have been taught how to take care of themselves in daily life. There are some with, if you want to use the IQ, I actually don't believe in it quite in the way a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But if someone can't, actually take care of themselves at all, they may need to have specialist care their whole life. But even someone with like Avi, my child, with her extremely high IQ, she has still needed a lot of my of care even into adulthood because she developed differently. It's a developmental disorder, and that's it has meant it can be quite and it can be quite stressful. Let me tell you, but as a teacher, you are in such a beautiful position to be a
Help.
good influence on this person.
Yeah.
Sakina.
I guess
Yes,
good manner when we treat them good, not they in general, good teachers and teachers who teaches from the heart and who are, they can teach them. Not teach, but they can act the right way with them. Sometimes we
exactly.
don't need private.
And
We don't need private, expensive teachers. I mean, schools or
yeah, not
teachers with.
necessarily, they're not necessarily good, to be honest with you, some of them.
Yeah. I guess any teacher who has a heart, any
Yeah.
teacher who really knows about, let me say,
All
autism or
about
whatever.
love and caring. That's
Yeah,
all it is.
yeah, that's it. This is the word. It's all about love and caring.
There are
Okay,
You
so
many,
said it.
there are many
so
different, I
let's
mean,
talk about
ADHD is a neuro
Yeah,
yeah.
atypicality. And
yeah,
there's a higher percentage of people with children and adults with ADHD. Although
Really?
adults are often, especially females, have been misdiagnosed and never diagnosed and told that they're this
oh,
or that and the other thing, but not actually diagnosed properly. Told that they're lazy, crazy, or and etc. But there are other things that can make a person different. And these, if you have, it's a fascinating thing. What makes you different so that you are bullied? If you come from one religion and you come into a majority religion, you might get bullied for that because you've left where you wouldn't have been bullied for that to a place where you are. You know, it's an environmental thing, isn't it? It's if you go to an environment where people accept that you come from a different religion or no religion at all or whatever, then you're not, if you're accepted and loved and cared for, and people don't bully you, it's not a problem, you know.
I want
So
to
I
make
mean,
a comment about Lasita. What you just said about Elias, I think that in a way it's really important to be able to fit their needs according to a schedule. Sometimes if you overteach and you overtry, it's not a good thing. And that's why when you said the 4 hours a week, hey, that sounds good to me if that's what the child can take. I mean, when they can't take more and you keep cramming and cramming and cramming, how are you helping them? You're
Well,
not
I'm
helping.
so rightly,
yeah, I'm not sure. He did have an ABA trained personal educator in the previous year, and then the funding was lost.
Oh,
And so it is hard on the parents. So somebody has to be home with him that much of the week. But he is doing better now than he
oh,
has
thank
in the
God.
past.
Good. Good.
But he isn't
and
reading. He loves books, though, and he's quite an artist. And my friend Jenna and I, when we look at his pictures, we think he's transgender because
yes,
oh,
there's a real feminineness to his
That interesting.
appearance.
it could well
But
be, and it happens to people.
nobody seems to have brought that up. But it is important to know before the puberty.
I agree with you totally.
Good
There's
grief,
something-
Lucita, it makes me want to cry because the fact that society is so unwilling to see that actually transgenderism has been around as long as we've had any kind of evidence of human activity from grave sites and so forth and archaeology. You can see it has been around indefinitely. And evolutionarily speaking, it makes sense that you would throw out some genes that's, that are the human people would throw out some genes where a person can kind of go either way, because say there's a war and all the men go away, but there is a boy who actually can take on the girl, quote unquote, situation and help that. That's actually good. So there's actually, they can actually be, there have been cultures where they're celebrated. They help out. They may not even see themselves as different or this or that. They can go back and forth.
Very
between the
interesting.
two.
Yeah.
It's
There
extraordinary.
was one Halloween where he
Yeah.
insisted he was dressed up as a cowgirl. That was interesting.
That's fascinating.
Why not?
Oh, what a fascinating thing. How are the parents towards this
Well,
situation?
my daughter is very aware of these issues, and her husband, she's now separated from, and this is news. This is so they're sharing care of the children. So they've got the home, and she has a studio, and one of them goes and stays. It's a dance studio, and one of them goes and stays at the dance studio because they haven't got alternative homes yet, but at least there's some place they can stretch out a mattress and sleep for the night and have some time away from the children or do jobs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I would say that they're both, I mean, they're in their early 30s, they're well-educated young people. They're both bisexual. So they both have some exposure to knowing about difference in these
That's
issues.
good. That's good.
I
Because
guess
knowing about
isn't
people are
this
different.
case
People
of
can be
family isn't that the parents when they separate or they have a problem, so this affects not only the autistic but affects the normal kids. So I guess parents too, or boyfriend, girlfriends, or any two who are together with kids, I guess they make it worse when they decide to play with autistic people. I guess
Yeah, but
it's
actually
crazy.
they've tried
Yeah.
to stay together for a long time.
Yeah.
The child is
It's
Yeah.
always the answer either.
and so rather than screaming at each other and things like that,
Okay,
separation can
yeah.
be healthier.
I think that
Yeah,
staying
you're right.
together, the children see the dissension going on is not a good
Yeah.
thing.
And
I mean,
also when they
sometimes
separate,
going
let's
apart
be
is the very best thing of all. It may not be the ideal that one wants, but in fact, it can be the best thing.
Right?
Definitely.
Life is not ideal. You
Life
all
is
know
not
Right.
ideal. You're so right, Lynn.
And I think that being for the kids not to have to see the fighting, the constant fighting,
Yeah.
is a very important thing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is now after just about 2 o'clock.
Can I just say one thing though,
Okay.
Lynn,
You
before
can
you
say whatever you
say it?
want.
sure. Go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
I just want to say to Sukaina, if you would like to contact privately and ask me any questions, I am
Excellent.
completely
Oh,
happy to talk to you
good.
about this subject.
He's our resident expert, Sukaina.
I've studied it very, very, very many years actually,
Okay.
and so I
Before
could be happy to
leaving,
talk to you.
yeah.
Don't
Before
stop.
leaving, Sanam, you didn't
Thank
talk
you.
today. Can you say the last word about autism and what is there any autism in you have known
I think
or
we
something like
learned a
that?
lot about autism, Tofik. I don't think that. I think
I'm
Sanam.
just asking Sanam. She's part of the
No,
chat.
listen, I think the people,
Mm.
first of all, I think we all are learning, even if we are parents or
That's
educators.
right. Exactly.
You're right.
And I think those of us like myself who are not can really I think it's always humbling to learn because every mind seems to be working differently. And you know, I think there is a lot that in terms of the neurodivergent community that we can you know, incorporate and, you know, allow them to excel in their own way. So hopefully we can, we can continue to gain the experience. It was even on as a Zoom here indicates, even on an international scale.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
yeah.
That's a
Diversity,
very
yeah.
good point.
Neurological diversity. Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Thank you.
everyone, thank you very much for coming.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Take good
Love you.
care.
Another
Bye-bye.
2 weeks.
Thank you. I love you.
Have a good day.
Love you.
Namaste.
Bye.
Okay,
Love
bye-bye.
all of
Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays. Bye now.
Bye-bye. All your